Hi guys, for today's video I'm going to do a replay analysis. This guy playing Ezreal is a Silver 2 player, and he basically says in the email that he's been stuck in what he calls ELO hell for quite a long time, like years he says, and he doesn't really know how to get out of it and what he's doing wrong. He says he's watched this game back before himself, and he can point out some mistakes, but he wanted to have me watch it and point out some of the more key mistakes that he makes, because obviously it's hard to self-analyze what you're doing yourself. So first thing we notice is you start Red Potion and 6 potions. I presume you've done this because you've seen people do it in LCS and higher level games, but I don't think you really probably understand the reason you do it. Especially against something like Draven Leona, I think this is the wrong start completely. And you use your red potion here, which is, in my opinion, just a complete waste because half of the reason you have a red potion is to sort of go in with it and bait with it because it gives you like 100 extra HP and they don't really expect it and you get a kill sometimes out of it. So basically, the stats you're getting from it now, because of what you've used it, is like you have 84 AD in comparisons to Draven's 72, which is okay. It's a pretty big deal. But then you've just sort of spent 250 gold, or even you spent all your gold really, because these health potions like aren't really going to get used in my opinion. But I'll go back to that in a minute. Looking at your masteries, you haven't got magic penetration. I think when you play Ezreal, you should definitely use dual penetration masteries from AD because it just makes sense. You do more damage with your Q, and I presume if you're playing Ezreal, you want to be hitting your Qs. I know some people play Ezreal differently, but I think that's how most people generally play Ezreal. Draven got blue buff, which makes your lane a lot harder, obviously. But yeah, so where to start? Okay, you got Ignite again. Ignite is a thing of the past, in my opinion, for AD carries nowadays. Barrier is way too good to pass up, especially against something like Leona Draven. Barrier or Cleanse is better for the late game. I think, this is a personal opinion, I think Ignite is good, but it isn't anywhere near Barrier and Cleanse, because you just don't have that survivability. Like I said, you did use your Red Potion in the game, and if you're going to use your Red Potion, you need to be trying to beat them 1v1, I guess, because you have that extra advantage from the Red Potion, and if you're not going to use this Red Potion, apart from to do double golems with, or even just to kill creeps with, it seems like a complete waste to me. I think this is the first big key mistake I'm seeing really, is just like, this red potion is absolutely useless. So even here, like, you're kind of scared to trade with the Draven, which obviously it's Draven, so you probably should be scared to trade with them. But, I mean, you have 6 health potions and a red potion, like, this is kind of your... So I would have gone in there, I think you could have killed that, personally. He would have cleansed your Ignite, but then you could have just Q'd him and killed him. Maybe, anyway. So the teleport comes down from Vi, and you flash for some reason instead of Eing. I'm not sure about that one. And you should probably E up here. Yeah, bad mistake. You see that one coming. And then, yeah. So 2 key mistakes there. You used your flash for a non-guaranteed kill. I would say never, ever, ever do that as an AD carry, because I mean, obviously there's certain situations where you can risk a kill, and 50% of the time you get the kill. But I mean, you could pause that there and say that like flashing there, you'll never actually gain any benefit from it, because your team is just too far behind you to do anything. So don't flash for kills like that ever, really, because it just, now you're in a position where if Leona hits you and you don't have your E up, you just die, and there's not really much you can do about it. Obviously, this Taric is maxing heal by the looks of it. Yeah, that's questionable versus Draven. So Taric gets a stun, and you didn't ignite here. That was a kill if you ignited. Yeah, 132 damage. He had 70 health left. Easiest kill. Obviously that's a bit of a mistake because, yeah, you want to be getting first blood, and I'm pretty sure you're in range to do that because you were like next to him. So yeah. First key mistake. As soon as you see his cleanse, you should always press ignite if you're actually going to run ignite, because there's absolutely zero reason not to. Because like your cooldown is 210 and his is 210 as well. So I mean, you're just kind of lining your summoners up perfectly, really. So basically now you've used your flash, which didn't get you a kill, and you've missed first blood because you forgot to press ignite. Now, I would probably say that's because you're not smart casting your ignite. I could be obviously I have no idea, no way to really like 100% guarantee that you're not smart casting ignite. But I know when I didn't use the Smartcast summoners, I'd try and play things like Ezreal or things you have to like rise where you have to hit your buttons fast, and I could never ever manage to press like Q click, E click, and then D or whatever, and F and click and get everything off at once. It just wouldn't work. But then when I started smartcasting and I realized you could just sort of hammer all your buttons at the same time, it got a lot easier to press ignite in them kind of situations. So maybe if you're not smartcasting your ignite, that's something you can think about, because it would have got your first blood there. Now Tarek goes in again here, and you just kind of played safe, which is probably the right idea because Jarvan is scary, especially because he's got items on you you haven't really bought yet. So now I'll be the first to admit right now that my Ezreal knowledge isn't the highest, because I really don't play Ezreal and I don't really see it played either. It's sort of like one like mystery champion to me where it's played but not really. The most common thing I see is a Bloodthirster into like Last Whisper or Trinity Force, and then Frost. I don't know what they're called. Frost Fists, Frozen Fists, whatever you want to call them. I see that quite often, but I think they got nerfed on Ezreal, so probably won't see that. Static Shiv is really good because you can poke really hard in teamfights with your Q, and then it procs to everybody, and you get Static Shiv from like a screen away, which is actually really good. But I'll try and talk a bit more about items, so when you buy them, but at the same time, I don't want to go too in depth because I'm not 100% confident in my Ezreal item choices, so I don't want to like tell you something that's wrong because that wouldn't really benefit anybody. But I think picking Ezreal in general at low elo is harder. You're making the game harder for yourself, in my opinion. This is 100% my opinion, obviously. Like, this is just what I think about Ezreal. I think anytime you ever pick an Ezreal in a game, that you're just making the game harder for yourself to win, because you kind of rely on hitting everything perfectly. Because obviously, if you miss a Q, then you're just losing like almost 200 damage, which is quite a lot of damage early game to lose out on. And then sometimes it can get you killed because you miss a Q and blah blah blah. And I just think for a lower elo player or a mid elo player, even me, like this is why I stay away from Ezreal, because I feel like why play something which relies you to hit 100% of your skill shots when you can play something like Ashe, which obviously relies you to hit arrows, but I mean like that's one skill shot every 120 seconds or whatever, in comparison to one Q every 5. It's a pretty big deal. Or something like Draven, even like, yeah, it requires you to catch axes, or Misfortune. There's no skill shots in Misfortune. I think basically when you learn in the game that playing something that has easier skill shots or no skill shots at all makes the game a lot easier to learn. That's personal opinion. Also, you bought boots here. I don't agree with buying boots this early because it doesn't actually give you anything. Draven's always going to have more move speed than you because he has SW. So buying boots is kind of like relatively pointless. Here Tarek gets a nice stun. Via ultimate comes down. You should ignite here, which you did, and then you've flashed forwards for the kill, which is fine. So you got a double kill, which is like really good for you at this stage of the game. Obviously, one thing also to note is your creep kill is pretty good. Critical creep kills for 9 minutes isn't the best, but also it's pretty good considering you had like a lot of aggression going on in your lane. So I haven't actually been watching you kill creeps. It's kind of a mistake from me. I completely forgot that you meant to kill creeps, but yeah, in comparison to the rest of the game, obviously Renekton's doing really well, but you're doing pretty well as well. Here, you just got 2 kills. The last thing you want to be doing is not recalling before they come back to lane. So I think hitting this tower is a mistake, because you're not going to kill it. And yeah, now you can't really recall if this trigger guy's good. He's going to stop you from recalling the whole game. So you W'd him there, but that's kind of pointless. It just uses your attack animation, because it doesn't actually slow the attack animation anymore. So you just kind of like got yourself, you took damage for no reason, and then you got eaten by Cho'Gath. So that was like a massive mistake that you went for that tower. Like there's no reason to actually go for the tower in the first place, and then you just kind of died to him. Like I don't think there's any reason for you to die there. Personally, I think you could have definitely played that better and actually lived, because I don't know, he did flash on your E, but at the same time, like I don't know, I think that was a very questionable death. So what did you pick up? You picked up a BF sword, which is perfect. But that's what I'm saying, like, there's no reason for you to stay at that tower because you already had a BF sword in your inventory, presumably. I mean, you barely got it, but you could have waited in base for a BF sword or etc. Because you didn't actually get any gold from hitting that tower because you weren't killing the creeps. So there's so many TPs in this game, it's unreal. Is this how, like, can someone tell me in the comments if this is quite common at low elos, like silver elo or whatever, where people take TP a lot? Because just a lot of TPs going on at the moment. And why is Renekton down here? 11 minutes into the game. I don't get it. And now Cho'Gath's eating another person. Cho'Gath's pretty big. So again, you eat into Renekton here, and then got smashed to bits. I don't know about that. And you're still dying by him. And you got ignited. And Cho'Gath Rupture? Maybe? Nah, you got E up, so that's not good. Oh my god, you almost eat into it. Ooh, that was close. So, I don't know, this is like... that was obviously a mistake. Like, there's no denying that was a mistake. You should never eat into Renekton, no matter like how strong you are. It's just too risky for my likings. And you recalled, I guess. Yeah, you recalled. So, what I would say so far, watching the first 12 minutes of this game is, obviously, you play too risky for my liking, basically. For now, at least. This is what's going to stop you, in my opinion, from getting high reload for now. Is that you like to make these, by the looks of it, flashy plays, and you know they look cool, like flashing in and Eing and getting kills, or like baiting that Renekton into a kill. I mean, I'm sure when you did that, you were like, oh yeah, baited, that was cool. But in reality, like it wasn't really baited. It was just you made a mistake and it turned out well. And that's not really a good. That's not a good way to base your play. You should base your play off of you being a solid player and getting creep kills every game yourself, and being the highest creep kills every game. You shouldn't base your play off of like hoping the enemy makes mistakes and gets kind of baited by you. Like that's the wrong way, in my opinion, to play. Because because then when you get high reload and people stop making the same stupid mistakes, like you just kind of get lost as what to do, and then yeah. So again, you had Ignite here, but obviously you wouldn't have killed him. And then Cho'Gath comes down. If you didn't Q the creep, you'd have killed that Draven there with Ignite and Q, but that's not that big of a deal. Again, you made a risky play here. Like even if you kill him, you didn't even kill him. You could have definitely came back and eat out of that and got out. Like you could have eat out here and then flash because your flash isn't up. You could have eat out and got out. I'm pretty sure. Going for a kill there is something I might have done because you know why not. But again, you didn't use your Ignite. Like this is a massive deal at the moment. You're taking Ignite, but you're not actually using it anywhere near to its full extent. You've missed 2 kills now because you haven't ignited, and if you're going to take Ignite of a barrier, you really need to be making like 100% maximum use out of it. And yeah, obviously you're really not, because yeah. So you ultimated here, and I don't know what that was. Maybe you thought they were doing Dragon, which is fair enough because there was a lot of pings of Dragon. So I'll just take that as a vision for Dragon ultimate kind of thing, because that's what I can presume that to be. And looking at enemies' team's items, see you at 60 creep kills there. This is what this is a concern for me, is that while there's been a lot of action in your lane, so it's hard to kill creeps. Obviously, like I fully understand there's been a lot going on, so killing creeps is a hard thing to do. If you'd have played more safe, like when you baited Renekton here and then you got him here and you had to recall, you probably missed like 14 creeps just because of having to recall twice in a row. Like that's a lot of gold, even more than Cho'Gath's gold from his death even. And Draven has got Cutlass, which is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a Draven buy that item. But we'll see how it works out for him, I guess. And again here, okay, so here you got hit by Leona. You ignited Leona, which is cool. At least you used it. And then you got a kill. Nice ultimate. That was actually a really good Ezreal ultimate. You kind of predicted what was going on. And then by kills him. Okay, cool. So I presume you were just stood there baiting for Leona because you saw a buy coming. Like that's the only real explanation you can get from that. Renekton comes down, you eat away, which is good. And then you're kind of worried about what to do. This is where you should be pinging back. If this is you pinging Dragon, 100% wrong call at this point of the game. 100%. You have no mana left, you have nothing really. Dragon, definitely wrong call. And you're still hanging around here. Like I'm going to pause this really quick. This is something I want to point out. A lot of people make this mistake quite often, where basically they think that they can do something about like contesting dragon, but you just used like all of your ornaments pretty much, apart from risers and obviously Pantheon because it's not here. You just use like a lot of your summoners. You have no flash, you have no mana really. You've probably got quite a bit of gold. You've got 1,200 gold, which you can complete your Bloodthirster off, and then get it stacked up. You got Pantheon push on top, so you have no reason to actually like want to force this dragon here because even if you recall, they're probably going to get it. Like I would bet money now that in the next couple of minutes they take this dragon and you can't stop them unless these two people here make a big mistake and then try and Rambo you 2v4, which might happen. But then Brand will come down from here and then it'll be 3v4, and then eventually Leona and Draven will come up, and then you'll actually lose the fight because it'll be like a long going fight, but then it'll end up that it was 5v4 eventually kind of thing, and then Leona and Draven will probably take the dragon. Now that's what I'm presuming to happen. Obviously I've not watched this replay before, so if it doesn't happen then whatever. Cho'Gath goes in, no reason to go in for them two here, but okay. So they went to Rambo, like I said. That was the other option, I guess. And then Vi wants to do dragon. No, don't do dragon. And this is going to be one of these long, like, this is what I'm saying. Eventually it turns out to be like bad numbers for you because now it's 4v3. Or 3v3 even, I guess, because Cho'Gath is recalled. So actually you got a turret out of that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Cho'Gath and Renekton just went so Rambo there. It was kind of crazy. As well as I've not done this the whole game. That's kind of a mistake. I was just absolutely not paying attention to that. There we go. That better? Yeah, that looks okay to me. Okay. Sorry about that. But yeah, you built. So I presume you're going for Infinity Edge here. But you had enough money for a Bloodthirster, and honestly, I think on Ezreal of all champions, Bloodthirster is just superior to Infinity Edge in every way, because you just get so much damage from a Bloodthirster on Ezreal. Like, Infinity Edge is obviously an amazing item, but I think, yeah, I don't know. I just don't think Infinity Edge is that great on Ezreal. Personal opinion, obviously. If someone wants to correct me and show me math that proves Infinity Edge is better than Bloodthirster, then go ahead. But I don't play Ezreal, like I said. And like the people I see play Ezreal who are really good at it always play Bloodthirster, so. This is another thing I'm talking about, like when I was talking about the skill shots with Ezreal. You missed a Q on Draven here, which could have been possibly a kill. Obviously if you weren't playing a skill shot heavy champion, then you probably would have killed that Draven there. And you ulted, like, yeah, I don't know, that was whatever. I could understand that ultimate kind of because it's just one of them ultimates. So you should obviously be killing the tower, you shouldn't care about Leona, you should go for the tower. And that's what you're doing, which is good. So, I don't know, kind of recapping what's gone on in this game. Ryze is 6-1 and 3, obviously it's doing really, really well. You're 3-2 and 4, which isn't great, but it's not bad either, like it's okay. Vi is 4-1-3, which is obviously going well. Your 2 deaths have been 100% preventable, that's the one thing that I would really point out. You could be 3-0-4, which is obviously like a lot better looking score than 3-2-4. But 2 deaths is, it's, you know, you can pass it off, there's nothing really. You've only got 95 creep kills. Now, this is one thing I would really like to point out. It's 19 minutes into the game. In my games, a lot, by 90 minutes into the game, everyone's sort of hitting like 150, 160 creep kills. Often, like that's a pretty common thing in my games. If you're not hitting them kind of creep kills, you're far behind, and you're not going to be winning your lane at all. So, that's something really to point out. Like, your creep kills are low for even for this kind of elo game. Like, if you can tell, like this is what I would say looking at this game. Even though Brand's 1-1-1, which obviously is not great, like you're not carrying the game massively at this point. He's winning really hard on creep kills right now, like really, really hard. And this is the kind of player where you can look at him and be like, okay, as long as he plays the game enough and plays a solid playstyle, this guy will gain elo because he's far enough ahead on items constantly. Even though obviously Ryze's got 6 kills, so he's not really far enough ahead on items. But he kills enough creeps that he will have enough items to be effective late game, in which case he can carry the game. Is basically what I'm trying to point out. Like, if you have high creep kills, you will always gain elo. Now that sounds like a stupid thing to say, but that's pretty much how it works out. Like, the higher creep kills you have, the more items you have, the stronger your champion is, the more likely you can 2v5 or 1v5 or 1v2, whatever. You can do a lot of things when you have more items than your champions. So like I said, they take the dragon here. And I did call this a couple of minutes ago, but it was a kind of different circumstance, so I'm not trying to say that like this is your fault or anything. The Vi goes in for the steal, not going to happen. And you're kind of stuck in this awkward position where you're not really strong enough. Now, I'm going to pause really quickly again here. This is the kind of position where you have your Infinity Edge, but at the same time, you're so far away from things that like Ezreal's attack range isn't that big at all. And you're kind of stuck in this awkward position where you can only really hit things with Q. And one Infinity Edge obviously gives you Q damage. It doesn't give anywhere near as much as Bloodthirster. And you're kind of stuck in this awkward position, like I said, where you can't even use your right click. So the crits and stuff from your Infinity Edge is just not really being effective. Now you eat into a wall here, obviously key mistake. Then you right clicked that Cho'Gath for a lot of damage because Infinity Edge. And Pantheon doing work. Right click 300 crit, that's the power of Infinity Edge. You flashed in here, obviously mistake, big mistake there. No reason to use your flash at all because it's too greedy. Like, there's no reason to be greedy for a 1-4 Draven. He's not really worth gold anyway. I mean, unless he got a Kodak. I wasn't paying attention if he got a Kodak fight, so if he got a Kodak fight, correct me if I'm wrong. But even then, a 1-4 Draven for your death, like, even if you killed him there, they come out ahead in gold. And I don't know, that was just a bad decision in my opinion completely. You could have like played that in a kiting way because they were all pretty low, and you could have kited them backwards and just got a kill from using your flash by kiting because like they were always going to follow you there, and if they didn't follow you, then you could have poked and just kept running at them and got a flash kill possibly out of that. So I think using your flash there was not the greatest idea. But I mean, I can see why you do it. This is a thing. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad. I'm not saying it's 100% like a bad play, but it's just lower elo play. Like this is a definition, in my opinion, of lower elo play. If you play like this a lot, like, if any of you watching this video actually, and you see things this Ezreal's doing that you do quite often, and you wonder why you can't get elo, this is why, basically. Like, it sounds really harsh for me to say this, but the less risky. I mean, the more risky you play, while it looks cool and sometimes you end up going 10-0 because you made risky plays and they all paid off, then the next game you go 0-10 and then you look stupid. Like, if you watch my last video or the video before that with the Shaco in, this reminds me of the Shaco, apart from the Shaco had better luck and got higher elo because of it. Like, the same plays, it's the same kind of play style where you're just doing things for no reason. And it's just so risky. Like, they're not calculated risks at all. They're just like, oh, I hope I go in and kill him here. And you can't really afford to play like that and expect to gain elo, because if you're not calculating your risks, then you're just flipping a coin constantly. And it's not even an even coin, that's the thing. Like, that situation, you flashed into 3 people, that's like a 1 in 4 chance, a 1 in 3 chance, whatever, of it actually going well. And if it's not going to go well, then why bother doing it, kind of thing. That's what I'm saying about not calculating things. You have to calculate everything you do. And if you're not going to calculate, then don't do anything. Just sit there and kill creeps. Because it's better than making plays that like actually lose you the game. Here again, you got hit by Leona for free because you kind of stood, and you didn't E that ultimate. That was a really easy ultimate to E, but that's beside the point. That's not really relevant. You probably would have died anyway. But yeah, you died there for no reason. Again, that's the 4th death for no reason. I mean, I hate to say it, but it really is. I'm sure if it was a high elo player playing Ezreal here, that you wouldn't have died at all this game, really. You've had no reason to die. Like, even then, you stuck around for so long for not really, for much point. Like, you're never going to get a kill on them 3 people. I mean, you got a kill on Leon on the tower, but that was kind of his like own stupidity that got him the kill. And not really your play. Like, hanging around against that, you should have just let Tarek try and run away. Because your death is way more valuable than, even though obviously it's not more valuable in terms of gold, but it's more valuable in terms of you getting farmed. Because you being dead, you can't kill creeps, you can't get gold, so you're actually just missing out completely on a lot of gold. Now, I want to talk here quickly, that you went top lane here, which is a bad decision again. Like, I would say, if this happens in a game where they seem to be coming to your lane 24/7 and then you're getting like destroyed because you can't kill creeps, you kind of have to flip tone the game, I guess, and think about it differently. You have to think about it just like an ARAM. Like, that's how I've started doing things when my lane gets camped, because quite often in my games, my lane gets camped and it annoys me because it's 4v2 constantly, and then my team eventually comes to help and it becomes 4v4 all game, and then it just turns into this like I don't know, just a massive cluster of retard. It's the only way I can describe it. And you have to keep jumping into this cluster of retard, and eventually you come out ahead because you have better mechanics than them. Like, it's kind of stupid. I'll try and show you an example eventually of one of them games. But yeah, going top lane here I think was a bad decision, because if you went bottom lane, you would have been here by now in comparison, and then that would have left you in a position to actually kind of get kills. I know I said this game that you shouldn't be going for like kills, you should be going for creep kills, but when things happen like this and you're already really far behind in creep kills, you have to make the gold up by doing something special. And this was kind of your opportunity for a 3v4 here. And by not going, I feel like you've sort of wasted a lot of potential gold and experience in general. Because, I mean, if you got a kill on Brand, you'd get so much experience from it that it'd be worth it just from that. And I don't know, we'll see how this fight plays out. I would imagine your team probably, looking at items, wins it. Unless this Brand has armor, which he does. So your team probably loses this fight. We'll see. Yeah, so they really quite hard lose that fight, actually. But then, like, they did a lot of damage. I think... I don't think you'd have got a kill if you were here. I mean, you might have done on Renekton. Or maybe even Brand. But, I mean... Okay, so maybe you going top was the best choice. But at the same time, it's like, it's one of them coin flip situations where if you came bottom, you might have done enough damage to get a kill. But you went top and played the safer option, which I've been, like, telling you to do the rest of, for most of this game. So, yeah, going top was probably the right choice in a safe play. But then, if you're gonna go top, you should like stay top. You know Renekton's here. I'm pretty sure you have vision of that. You know Brand and Leona are mid, and you know Draven was bottom because I'm pretty sure you saw him on the sword. So you going top, I mean, you should have stayed top and tried to like split push the tower, because Ezreal with E and Flash, like, it's really hard to get caught on Ezreal with E and Flash, presuming you use the walls properly. So and you had 2 wards on you as well. That's another thing I would notice, is if one of the reasons you went top there was to sort of get creeps, which obviously it was, and you had 2 wards on you, how come you didn't stay and push that lane and ward it up? Like, you could have put a ward like here on the red buff, and then like one here, and you'd have been pretty safe from like every angle, or even like one here. And you'd have been safe from most angles to gank from. Like, Renekton has a gap closer, but you have an E to get away from the gap closer, so you'd never die by him. Cho'Gath, you can E his Rupture, and then Leona, like, whatever, it's Leona, you can't really die by him anyway. And Brand, you'd never die by a Brand, because you can E away from everything he does. So, something to note. Here I presume you're going to go Ward Dragon, which isn't really your job. I mean, like, that sounds stupid, but I don't know, it's not really a job to be warding things at this point. And warding the dragon, obviously you should have vision of the dragon. But I don't know. I like the play, it's a good play, like in general, it's a solid play to ward dragon, obviously. But I don't know, maybe it baits your team into a fight they don't want to take. That's basically where I'm coming from. Like, obviously it's not your fault at all, but I'm pretty sure if you team fight here you'd lose. I guess we'll see what happens. So I guess that was your ward as well. Yeah, it was, which is a good ward. And you tried to steal it. It was a good attempt because he didn't smite it, so I mean, that was a really good attempt at stealing it. And then they're just going for it again. Wow. They have like, this is something I noticed about lower ELOs. They sort of have no, I don't know what the word I'm trying to use is. I don't want to sound over harsh. No concept of game objectives, basically. They just took a dragon. That's a massive deal. Like, in any game I play, taking a dragon is a huge, massive, 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 massive deal. And pretty much whoever gets the dragon sort of backs off and goes and farms their lane, because they already got a massive advantage. And they don't really have to try again until dragon's up again. So why would they bother sort of going... Like, this teamfight here, they're going to achieve nothing out of it at all. This tower's full HP, this tower's full HP. Draven's going to go farm bottom, which is the right choice. This Draven is the only person on their team who made the right choice there. I'd like to point that out, really. This Draven made the correct choice. The rest of the team is making the complete wrong choice. This is absolute stupidity. If you see yourself doing this in games, just think about why you're doing it, because it makes no sense whatsoever to do. They have one ward here, so that's the only vision they have. And they're just not going to achieve anything at all out of this. Like, they'd have been better off just going back to their lanes and farming it up, like splitting back into their lanes. So this camps up, Pantheon's pushing top. Brand could push mid because he beats Rise 1v1. Draven could go bottom again with Leona and beat Ezreal Taric 2v2. but they're not. They're just kind of like going in the jungle for no reason. I mean, this actually quite annoys me watching people do this because it's so illogical that it's just like, I don't know. We'll see how this plays out, I guess. But I can pretty much guarantee now that the red team is going to gain nothing apart from maybe 1 or 2 kills, and then they have to recall because they're not going to get game objectives. That's what I'm trying to point out. They're not going to get any game objectives from doing this. It's a complete waste of time. And now if they get the Kudus tower, I'm going to feel like a fool. But we'll see what happens, I guess. So they're going to try for this tower, but it's 4 of them. They're never going to get this tower. There's no way they get this tower. And they haven't got Baron Boss, so there's no reason for them to actually trying to be forced the game this hard at this point. Like, without Baron, you can't really force things, and they're just kind of... So they just wasted like 30 seconds of their time wandering around the jungle when they could have been going and killing creeps or pushing top lane out, because this top lane is going to push now, because no one's been here. And their red buff's up, and their jungle's up. There's so much gold to be had here and here and here. And they're just not having any of it. They're just kind of like wandering around mid. I really don't like that play at all. So here you got caught by Draven, who used his blade, I guess? No, he didn't use his blade, okay. And then mid lane, I don't know what's going on. I guess your team decided to go retard as much as they were going retard, and sort of went for an engage. I don't know what to say about that really. That was just... You E'd into 2 people here again, and then you ignited Brand. Your E's have been very, very off point this game. And then you died for no reason again. 5th death for no reason. Like, this is the biggest thing I'm seeing in this game. 5th death for no reason. You can't die that much for no reason, like, at all. It's just, there's no reason to die that much. Especially in plays like that, like... This is why you struggle to get an elo. This is what I would say. Because you're just dying too much. Like, there's just no reason to die that much, really. And I mean, again, I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but it's just how I'm seeing this game. 5 deaths for no reason is 5 deaths, just way too many. And the thing is, like, the way you play, the higher elo you get, like, if you actually gain elo, people are going to abuse your mistakes even more and more and more and more until you just end up feeding every game. And that's a really bad situation to be in, because you don't want to feed every game. And obviously, I mean, I don't really want to say you're feeding this game, but you have the most deaths on the team combined with Pantheon. So you're not really feeding, but you're not really doing well either, that's the thing. Like, so it's hard to say. And your creep kills are only 150 again, 30 minutes into the game. That's too low for me. And you're sort of mishmashing your items again. Like, you have this no magic, which I presumed was going to go into Mercury Boots, which is a pretty good pickup on Ezreal. But if you go into Infinity Edge routes, you have to buy Berserker Greaves, because you're basically turning yourself into a right-click Ezreal, not a Q Ezreal. Okay, so everything just kind of crashed. Hopefully I'm back at the same point I was at. I think I was talking about Infinity Edge and Berserker Greaves. So your item choice, you basically turn yourself into a right-click Ezreal, not a Q Ezreal. And you want Berserker Greaves, so you can be right-clicking, because you get 50% attack speed from it. Whereas Mercury Boots, obviously it's better if you go in Q, because you don't really use the Berserker Greaves buff, you just use the Q damage, so having Mercury Roots is actually better. So you're mismatching your items a bit here, and the Zeal is... I don't know. I think Last Whisper would have been better against this team, because they have quite a bit of armor, and this Redacton's going to be real trouble for you. So, just something to note there. I think Last Whisper, Infinity Edge Last Whisper would have been good. Bloodthirst Last Whisper would have been better. Personal opinion. Obviously, Ezreal item. I'm not 100% sure on Ezreal items, so... we're going to pause here and talk about what you're doing. I guess you want to split push or something here, rather than team fight, which is probably sensible, because honestly, there's not really any way your team's going to win a team fight that I can see, because they just have a better team fight than you at this point in the game. Pantheon is pretty much next to useless. Vi Orma is obviously really good, but he has no tank. He's going to die really quick. Ryze does quite a bit of damage, but eventually they're going to win, just because they're way too tanky for you right now. I mean, they have a Brand with 3000 HP, like, yeah, you're not really going to touch that for a while. So I guess, I don't know. Not team fighting is the correct decision here. And they're pinging you back, they're like, oh, come mid, I can see it already. And then you're not going to come mid, you're going to push top. So I like this play a lot here. And obviously, this is kind of where your team has to go non-retard. Basically, if your team retards here and tries to fight 4v5, no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't be recalling here. I don't think. I don't think you should go. I don't think you should go back here. I think you should stay pushing top because they can't push onto your tower and win 4v5. That's not possible without Baron at this point. This is another thing about game objectives. Like this red team are doing things for no reason. They shouldn't be pushing this tower without Baron when they could force a fight at Baron and win 5v5. Instead, they're pushing a tower and risking getting tower dived onto. Well, not tower dived onto, but like fighting on a tower. You don't want to ever fight on a tower. Because you can't, like, they haven't got enough stuff, and then they're going to fight on a tower, and we'll see what happens. They'll probably win. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what you're doing. This is the important thing. You right click once, miss W, right click, right click, right click. Hit Q, right click. Yeah, okay. So you did quite a bit of damage, but again, you eat in for no reason there, and then this Renekton just ate you for breakfast. And I presume that's game over, actually. I mean, I don't want it to be game over, but presumably it is. We're just like, I can't speed it up anymore because it's live. That's unfortunate. But yeah, let's just, I presume the game ends. I'm going to start talking about other things. Like I said, yeah, Iron Bow Static Shift, good pickup, really good pickup. I actually quite like that. But then at the same time, just the way you built Ezreal in general didn't really make much sense to me. I mean, obviously, if you have some success with it, great, and if other people have success with it, good. But it doesn't make much sense to me personally. Everything just kind of, it's mismatched, and the logic behind it doesn't like make sense to me. Always, if you ever build an Infinity Edge, like the thing that gives you the most damage for the least gold is upgrading your boots to Berserker Greaves because it gives you more crits and more attacks and more everything. So that's something you definitely should have done if you're going to build an Infinity Edge. And then even then, in the last fights, like you didn't spend that much time right clicking apart from when Renekton actually hit you, because Ezreal is not really designed to be that kind of right clicky Caitlyn style champion. He's designed to poke from long range at Q and then eventually go in with E and actually do a lot of burst damage. He's not really designed, like his attack range isn't big enough, in my opinion. Like some people play him well and they can manage it, but in my opinion, trying to play him like that is too hard. There's no reason to actually like overcomplicate it. And I would say, obviously, if Ezreal is like one of your favorite champions, then you should keep playing him. But for anybody at this elo, like just play more traditional carries. Playing something like Ezreal is too complex. Like it's just way too complex to bother. Like why bother learning something that's so beyond any other AD carry apart from like maybe Vayne? Yeah, I guess Vayne is like the only one I would say that's really different. Like, what? Don't go out of your way to learn something this complex. You should just spend your time learning to get better at playing AD carries in general. Because the thing is, if you learn something like Misfortune, it means you can play Misfortune, Ashe, Caitlyn, Varus. You can play all them kind of champions because they're all the same kind of kite backwards, right click style champions. Whereas if you play something like Ezreal, it's such a different style. Like, it's so different that you just waste time learning one champion, and then if you can't play it or if it's bad like it is at the moment, then you just wasted so much time. So hopefully you got something out of this. Basically, in conclusion, you work on your item build because it doesn't make much sense overall. And then, like, this is no mantle, which just wasted gold. 20 magic resistance didn't do anything for you at the end of the game. And even though it's only 400 wasted, like, it's still, you know, it's just a waste. You don't want to ever waste gold. Red Potion at the start of the game was a waste of gold. No reason to, I don't think, do that personally. Especially the way you used it wasn't great. You had 6 health potions, but you didn't go for trades. And you had Taric heal as well. Well, they had Draven with the longsword and 2 potions, and you had Leona who has no heal. So you should always outpoke with 6 health potions and a red potion and a Taric heal. But you didn't really go for that. You just sort of played too passive for my liking, and then eating at the wrong time. So that's something to really work on. Your laning phase, if you're going to try and buy them kind of items to get that kind of advantage, which is what them items are used for, then you have to actually do it, because you kind of just didn't really get the advantage you're meant to get by buying them items. You just played too passive. And yeah, obviously the last thing, 6 deaths for no reason, really. Like every death was because you baited yourself into it by using your E. It's sort of like the Tristana thing, where a lot of people play Tristana and they use their rocket jump to like jump on people's heads, and then they hope they kill them before they die, which is a complete wrong way to use rocket jump. You should be using rocket jump as a free escape, not as a way to get into fights. This applies to Ezreal's E as well. Always use your E to get away from fights, unless you can sort of E into a fight, into an amazing position where you know you're never ever going to get hit, or E to the side so you avoid like a dash or an ultimate or something. Never E forwards. Like, I would say that's a basic rule that you should use your own judgment about, but like, if you have something like a rocket jump or an Ezreal E, stop using it to get into fights, start using it to kite better and position yourself, because it's a free reposition. Like, it's a free flash to reposition. That's a massive deal on a lot of champions, and that's one of the powers of it, of Ezreal. You have a free reposition constantly, so you should really be using that because it's only got an 11-second cooldown. Like, that's not long at all. And obviously, your mastery is no magic penetration. It's a bit hurtful to Ezreal at the game because you get less damage from the Q. Um, as far as I'm aware, anyway. Someone tell me if I'm wrong with that. I could be, even though it is physical damage. But then I think that applies to your ultimate and your E, so could be wrong about that. Yeah. So thanks for watching this video, and hopefully you enjoyed it and learned something. And hopefully I didn't drag this on too much because I'm just kind of talking and talking and talking because I find it interesting to talk about this. So yeah, stay tuned for tomorrow's video.